the minutes of June 22nd, I found a mistake or maybe a clarification on my own. On number 7, I said review the PowerPoint draft of the final committee. I didn't think we're going to, whatever's the committee's choice. I thought we were just going to kind of stick to the document Leo started for the outline versus the PowerPoint. Does everybody agree with that? Because I won't call it PowerPoint anymore. I'll call it our draft outcomes document.
Sure.
Is that fine? Okay. We can always do a PowerPoint. It's simple enough to do, but I'll just amend this to say review draft. I'm in Google Sheets here. I love Google Sheets. Draft of final. I'll just say review draft of final committee conclusions. I'll leave it at that. Does anybody else have any suggestions, edits, comments, deletions, modifications, allanges? That's from banking. Remember Allange, Gene? Yeah.
No
Leo would
allanges.
know that too. Yeah.
Oh,
No
wow.
allanges. No allanges. Okay. And Peter would know that too. So everybody would know that actually. So is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Gene. And is there a second?
Second.
Gene and Leo. Great. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Great. Thank you. Lauren, is there anybody on for public comment? I can check myself too, I guess.
Gus is on.
Okay. Gus, any words of wisdom to start us off this evening?
He's not raising his hand.
Okay. Hello, Gus. Hope you had a nice 4th. And okay, so we'll jump down to update on status of questionnaires. Still coming in. We're going to shut it off, what, 2 days, Lauren? On the 8th?
Yep.
So we'll shut off on the 8th. And we probably have, I don't know, 130, 140 responses.
There we go.
Yeah, some really nice comment, really quality comments. Some people, kind of completed the questions but didn't fill anything in free form or the opposite. So we'll take all that and Lauren, if you don't mind, if you could condense all that as you did in that spreadsheet, we'll try to make heads or tails of the data. Shut down on 8th. And I think you sent something out. I saw it, and then there was a flurry of people filling it out. I got a flurry of requests.
Yeah,
So-
we did a reminder twice last week, and after
That's
both
great.
times, you kind of got like a spurt of 10 more. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that's fantastic. So people, when they know about it, they'll participate. So that's great. And,
Hey,
and some,
Bob,
like I said, really good comments. Yes, sir.
I was just curious, if everybody read the survey comments, does anybody feel it would change at this point what we've kind of come up with in Leo's document?
I don't. If you're asking me, I think it just.
I'm asking
validates-
everyone. I
Yeah.
read it and I thought, gosh, it seems like we hit upon so many of those issues that came into the survey. I was looking a little bit for affirmation of that.
Communication, right?
I mean,
That's a biggie.
I think it confirmed a lot of the things that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, and
agree.
again, there were different sides of there were, it was quite the spectrum, but, there was, there were a couple things that, I kind of surprised to hear, but
Mhm.
not much. It was,
Yeah, no, you're right. It's the same thing. The communication's a big one. Participation is a big one. You could tell that when people filled out the questionnaire, if they didn't fill anything out on 1 through 5, then they free-formed it well. And you can tell if somebody was really kind of mad or angry because I disagree, right from the get-go. And it's, here we go, here's another, so you can tell you're either happy with things the way they're going or you're not happy with things the way they're going. And, you're either for a town manager maybe or no town manager, so that word's leaking out to the.
I thought that there wasn't a lot of real intel on, a lot of people didn't have an opinion in regard to
Right.
form of government,
Right.
but they were keyed into obviously keyed into, the lack of why, lack of participation and why, and some of
Yeah.
them were very defensive about that. And,
Yep.
Yeah,
and just some other things. But I didn't think there was nothing that stood out that said, oh my God, clearly these people are saying change our form of government.
Right.
yeah,
Right.
I completely agree. I thought there'd be more town managers comments, and not that I don't know what I expected, but there wasn't. And I agree with Gene. I think
Yeah.
people basically said there's things to fix on the periphery, but nobody seemed to sort of say the town meeting didn't work
Mhm.
in general.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Right,
might
right.
want to fix some things, but no one was prepared. At least my read of all those, I read them all,
Mhm.
is that
Yep,
they're
me
not
too.
prepared to move away from what we're doing now.
I just don't know if I'm just not sure they know what they don't know. Do they know that there's only been 2 quorums in 10 years and how that affects how we
Probably
run
not.
the town?
Yeah.
No,
Unless you're really, really active
no,
participant,
right.
I don't think you
But
would know. And a lot of people talked about how they would participate in things that they felt very, very strongly about, but
right.
they
Saw a
wouldn't
couple of
Mhm.
those, yeah.
take
Yeah.
them. Yeah. So I don't
But
really think.
but do you think if they knew that there were only 2 quorums in 10 years, that all the decisions were being made by the Board of Selectmen, that what they recommended stood? Would people be happy about that? I
Well,
don't know.
I think they'd come back to say we need to fix some things, not change the form of government.
Yeah, oh,
If they knew that,
could,
it's just my
sure,
read of it
maybe,
anyway.
yeah. And, lowering the quorum, you know what that, what the result of that could be, so I'm not in favor of
But
that.
I also think that to Peter's point, I think that the fact that they don't really understand the workings of it, to me, would guide the next charter revision committee.
Right.
You say, okay, a lot of people don't really understand, and maybe they don't understand or realize, in that many years, there's only been 2 forms. So that's really where they need to focus on. So people do have a better understanding.
Yeah, I
You know,
think
Bob,
education is key.
in our conversation with Bruce Wilson, I think he brought up a very good point, though, is that people only tend to come out if they're against something, as opposed to if they're really for something, which suggests that there may be a general, contentness among the community with the way things are going. We haven't
Right.
really faced a lot of really big issues, quite honestly. And I think he brought that up, and it's like, well, that really resonated with me when he said that.
Mhm. Yeah, we talked to Bruce on the 1st of July. I took a page and a half of notes here, so that was quite a long meeting. And then we also spoke with Gene Fitzgerald, board chair, on the 1st of July as well. And I got to tell you, I said it again. I said it before. I'll say it again. The people that we have participating in town government are really, really quality people. We've been very, very lucky. Jean, it was a delight to talk to her, and it was very interesting talking to Bruce. I tried to be a little bit of a devil's advocate with some of the things that we've spoken about as a committee. When someone would come out, I'm against this, I'm against that, I would come at it a different angle and try to be not pushy or argumentative, but just, well, what do you think about this? Or we've discussed that. And so, got a little, it was good. It was a good discussion. Some of the things that Jean talked about, she's been on the I don't know a lot of people's backgrounds because I'm new at this, and I'm new. I don't know anybody in town really, and especially in the government participation perspective. So she's been on the board of education for 8 years. I think she's been chair for that long, if I'm not mistaken. From what I got out of her, she was in favor of a town manager. She does think that we, again, as we've all heard, we have excellent staffing, excellent department heads. She feels that the charter review committee last time had went a little too far and too deep. I didn't bring it up, but the RTM came up, and conceptually she thought it was really good, but might not be in reality from a form of government perspective. She offered that maybe the Charter Commission, Charter Review Committee, whoever that is, takes those revisions maybe one at a time, and maybe you don't vote on all the changes that are ever recommended, but you do them maybe in a sequence. Let me see, take revisions one time, a vote. She did like the idea, I brought this up, of if the losing selectman vying for first selectman, that person doesn't stay on the board. Doesn't, so that person, you either have a vote for first selectman and a loser leaves and the winner stays. So, and then Bruce's, as I showed you, there's a lot of comments here. I wrote as fast as I could. He liked, he brought it up actually about what are we looking for that's broken. So we went through that, and Bob was on the call for that one. Bob Hubbard, no, wait, who was on the call? Lauren was on the call with Bruce, and Bob was on the call with Gene.
No, I was on the call the whole time, Bob, with Bruce as well.
Oh, you were?
I had no voice. My voice
I didn't know you were there. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, well, we talked in the beginning, and I thought it got disconnected, but I had no voice, but I was there. So.
Oh, I thought that was for Gene's. Okay,
I
whatever.
was there for
So,
both.
well, thank you for participating. That was great. Again, Bruce is talking about the ongoing education of the electorate. Board of Finance may have maybe a little too much power. Board of Education is a little too big. Didn't have any issues about surprisingly, didn't have any issues about executive authority. Likes the current form of government. You can tell people who that are kind of in the mix right now really don't want to change anything. Good town staff again. He wants to improve the charter, detail the role of boards and commissions. Afraid of government employees having unchecked protection. Not in favor of a town manager. His parents, I guess, moved to Maine a few years ago and had a very bad experience with a town manager. So, I offered, well, listen, one bad experience doesn't make the whole concept a bad thing, but he was against the town manager. Definitely increased a 2 to 4 year term, stagger terms. I brought up RTM, and he thought that was an awful form of government. He was agreeing that the running first select person wins. Winner always, and then the winner always has a majority. And his gut says to change that, but he'd have to game it out. So he's going to think about that. Maybe get back to me. Maybe there's a capital budget process versus a board of finance, that was interesting topic. And from participation perspective, as we've seen, and I think we all agree that more technical, more things that we can do via Zoom or YouTube, go to meeting, whatever we're using. I think that stuff's here to stay, but maybe it should be, officially added to how we operate within the government. And Lauren, he wanted me to ask you if we could get with some people from that association and find out any other data about town managers where there had been a bad experience. So that's something I need to follow up on with you.
Okay.
What was he looking for?
You'd like to hear some maybe some stories on how town managers did not work out, because everything that we've heard and everyone that we've spoken to at the different towns we've went to, of course, it shouldn't be a surprise that the town manager insertion of a town manager was a good thing. And, he's heard bad things.
You know,
So he wants us to find out about
He
that.
said he was against town managers, right? Did he say why, other than his mother's
No,
town's experience was bad?
no, and I got the sense that the cost, and but I said, even with the cost, we would definitely reduce the first select person's salary to kind of help with that paying for that. So if our first selectman makes $100,000, and let's just use round numbers, a town manager makes 200, maybe the first selectman makes $25,000 or nothing, and all that money gets funded over to funding a town manager. I was just trying to be, again, devil's advocate for some of the things that he felt very strongly about, as I typically am known to do.
Well, I think I think having worked with him for 2 years and he sort of mentored me before I was elected. I think he just feels very strongly that this
Right.
doesn't. Yes, there need to be some improvements, some changes, but I think he feels that this form of government is not broken. So.
He's a smart guy for sure. I'd like to get to know him a little better, but I don't know him at all. But he had really good ideas, and he was very firm in his beliefs. I like that. And so, I mean, there's not one person I haven't spoken with, met with, talked to on the telephone that I haven't been impressed with, from the P&Z chair to the Board of Ed to I've been just very, very happy with everybody I have spoken with, and they've been very, very nice to me and very respectful and helpful. And I think we spoke with Bruce for, was it an hour and a half? I think I was with, I should have wrote it down, but I didn't. I think we were with Jean for a good hour, maybe more, because I think she's a professor at Quinnipiac, and I think I think she had to. Where I crouched into some time on her next meeting. So anyway, so that was an update on those two folks. Lauren, does anybody else from the Board of Selectmen want to speak with us, or do we have anyone else from the town who wants to chat with us too? Because we only have two from the town employees, and that was the head of economic development and the town clerk. Again, wonderful people, very, very happy to, very, very lucky to have them, but I don't think anyone else wants to participate. At least no one's contacted me, and I haven't received any invites.
So I had 4 senior staff members that actually filled out the public survey by mistake. They thought that was the staff survey. So you do have those responses, and I just figured this out because they kept telling me that they filled out the survey and they weren't there. So they clicked the wrong link, and they filled out the public survey. And I'm going to go back in and find those 4 and re-forward them to you and just let you know that those are actually staff members.
Okay, thank you, because I wouldn't know by names. I wouldn't know the names. Okay.
And
good.
then I know Peggy should want to talk to you as well. She was on vacation. She comes back tomorrow. So I'm going to try to set up a conference call with her for the end of this week. And then I think it would just be Scott Murphy, who you haven't spoken to on the board. So I'll reach back out to him and just figure out if there's a good time this week to set up a conference call.
Okay. We haven't spoken with Aaron.
Aaron either? Okay.
No. So.
All right, let me talk to both of them. Yeah.
Surprised I even knew that. So I'm on my game tonight. So anyway, okay, good. Thank you for that. Yep. And then town employees we talked about. So continue review, and this is the Bob R. Thank you for your most recent consolidation of the build, because that really puts it into really just very succinctly into one page. So thank you for that. That was great. So what I thought we would do tonight is run through this last government matrix government matrix outcomes and put this thing to bed, and then begin to write our final document, and go from there. So, and Bob, if you put that in your note to me as well, your note to us as well. So essentially we have what, 4 or 3? We have voter engagement, continuity, government oversight. Did I miss one here?
I'm not even sure I
That's it.
caught them all. I tried to consolidate it all into one, but
I appreciate that. I think it's great. It helps me focus from a, looking at a big spreadsheet like that. So
I feel
voter
like-
engagement, low voter turnout at town meetings and referendums creates a challenge to the effective management of the town of Madison and creates a potential lack of separation of powers between executive and legislation, or legislature. I think that's great. First potential causes, low participation and representation of unaffiliated and other voters. Explicit political nominations. So good corrective actions. Lack of elector and voter awareness, expand electronic delivery. Absolutely. We've seen that in the questionnaires. Lack of flexibility of platform for public participation. Yeah, I completely agree there too. Enable video conference, teleconference. Legislature for raising public. Yeah, that's a big one too. Legislature has difficulty raising problems or concerns. Yeah. This is really great.
none of it's new. It's just what was on the other tab.
Yep. No, I just, when you put it all together, it just brings it all together for you. Low voter turnout. I don't have anything to add. Anybody have anything to add to voter engagement as essentially as a problem? I think that's a really great job with the corrective actions. Scroll down to continuity. There's perceived challenge in executing mid and long-term plans. Yeah, I talked with both the board of Gene and Bruce about that, they're pretty adamant in their opinions. Term of length for Board of Selectmen, Board of Ed, Board of Finance, Commission.
Do they agree with the challenge that's stated there?
Yeah, Bruce was not for it.
No. Do they agree with the idea that there's a challenge in executing mid and long-term plans?
Let me see if I can remember. I don't think either of them commented, frankly.
Okay.
I don't want to put any words in their mouth. I don't think so. We kind of danced around it a little bit. I should have been more explicit in that. You know what? I take that back. Jean did. And that's why she wanted a 4-year term, because she explicitly said, hey, listen, you're running for the first year. You're trying to figure out what you're doing for the first year. And then the second year you're running for office again. And the continuity there is just, it's not helpful. She did. I don't think Bruce had an opinion on that. I'm sure he has an opinion, but I don't know what it is.
Didn't you say he was in favor of the 4-year terms, or?
Yes.
So, I mean.
Yes.
Yeah, Bruce was in favor of the 4-year term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him.
And also the potential for the 4-year term to, the topic of salary, I think, came up as well, because if you want to attract quality candidates to run for that office, you got to pay quality people to have the background, whether it's a town manager or a first selectman. You want to get somebody, who's sort of towards the end of their career, who is, you got to pay them,
Yep. And then I mentioned, well, if you're in the middle of your career, why are you going to do this if it's not going to result in a long-term strategy for your own personal, your own personal treasury? So, but anyway, so
One
yeah.
question.
So, yeah.
Sorry, Bob,
Go ahead.
I'm looking at the spreadsheet. I can't see
Yeah.
in Zoom.
Yeah.
If we recommend, or the charter decides to go 4 years for the Board of Selectmen, would we want a term limit then perhaps on it, so no more than 8.
Oh, that's an interesting topic.
I mean, because, part of the concern is that, everybody wants to, it takes time to get involved, to figure it out, and then you're running again. So that's why you don't want the 2 years. On the other hand, if you get somebody that barely squeaks by, who, was not that popular, but they get in for a second term, you could have an average first selectman for 8 years, which isn't exactly a good thing either.
Yeah. Yeah. What's everybody think about a term limit?
I
tend to
think
be
it's
against-
something that should be considered as part of the, or
Charter
that should be
revision?
probably added to consider
Yeah.
for the Charter Review Commission to consider imposing term limits, and let them discuss, because there's good reason to have them.
Let's add it.
And probably not just the Board of Selectmen either. It should be probably the Board of Ed and the Board of Finance too. I don't know if that's happened much around here. I think the board, at least since I've been here 5 years, the Board of Finance has always flipped, but it's not inconceivable somebody could run again.
But if you're interested in continuity, if the people like somebody who's been there for 8 years and you've got a rock star in the office and then you force them out, you're forcing change. So if the argument for a town manager is that you have sort of a firm continuity, that kind of takes that argument away, the way I see it. I say let the people vote. You want somebody in there for 12 years because they're doing a heck of a job, let them be there.
That person have to go straight to heaven.
I think we're not going to decide that now. I just think it should be up for consideration on the
Yeah, I
docket.
think it should be a point.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Where should we, Bob, you want to add that in there? You've done such a nice job here. I don't want to screw this up. Add a line or something?
It just got to be wherever I think there are 2 spots.
It could go in 2 different, yeah, it could go right there. Is that you in red?
I'm typing. I don't know if it's
You're
right.
typing right. Can I see you typing? No.
Probably see what it's done.
So last edit was made seconds ago by Bob Reinhardt. Cool. Yeah, there you go. Okay.
There it is. Yeah.
Yep. Good. Excellent.
Spot 2.
Good. Peter, good observation there.
I just think it's always out there. Whether it's right for this town, I don't know, but it's something that the next group should be thinking about.
Yeah, I sit on a board of 15 and a nonprofit, and 10 years ago, they put term limits in. And so my term is up in 2 years. And what they didn't realize, the people who put these bylaws in place, is that the entire board will now flip in the next 4 years. And there's going to be no legacy knowledge on this board for these trustees. So, hey, it's what they wanted to do. I'm not going to.
They do the same thing for Habitat for Humanity.
Do that.
They have limitations on how long you can be on the board.
Yeah, no, I think overall it's a good thing. But then let's see, over here. Go over here.
I had a question on C26.
See,
Allow candidacy for either first selectman or board only. What does that mean?
That I tried to
Yeah.
paraphrase. There were a couple in the build. There were a couple of suggestions on how to fix the first selectman, the losing candidate being on the board.
right.
And I think, Bob, you referenced Killingworth's charter, and someone else had
Yeah.
a similar thing. Basically, you run for first select person or you run for the board, but you can't.
Okay, if that's what that means, I
Yeah,
agree with that.
Yeah, I tried to make it clear. I guess I didn't.
Yeah. Gus referred me to the Killingworth charter on that, and I looked at it 3 times. I couldn't find it in the charter. I read it. I said, Gus, I can't find this. And it's there, but you really got to really read into it. It's not explicit. It's not explicit here either, Peter, to your point. It's, we could probably phrase that a little better, but.
And I guess the other thing I wondered about,
These are just our notes, right?
Yeah.
the other thing I wondered about is, and maybe the charter can pick this up, the next committee, but we have selectmen that step down all the time, and just what should that reselecting process be? Because right now,
What is
it's a Democrat that steps down, they fill it with a Democrat, and vice versa with Republicans, which is all fine. But I just think there ought to be some process, because in some cases you might have somebody that's actually run, didn't win, and got reappointed.
Yeah, that's a good point too. It's,
I don't know if it's happened or not, but I think it's
That happened
conceivable
with-
that, somebody, particularly with the old rules where the guy or gal that doesn't win for selectman stays on the board. I think oftentimes those people probably step down for a variety of reasons.
yeah.
But just maybe the whole replacement of the board of selectmen is something that ought to be just open for discussion.
So
If someone resigns.
yeah, so forgive me, what is that process now?
So
Is it just-
the process now is that it's a vote of the Board of Selectmen. It doesn't go back to the people. It doesn't go back for a special election. It goes to the board. So when someone resigns from one of the political parties, like with what happened with Tom after Tom did not win his reelection in November, Tom resigned. And the Republicans went back and saw a new candidate in their party. That person had to go. I think they had 2 qualified candidates that they liked. They went to the nominations committee of the Republican town committee. They had to be re-interviewed, and then the nominations committee brought it to the whole RTC. And then I got a memo that said that the RTC was nominating Bruce Wilson to replace Tom. That nomination then goes to all the existing members of the Board of Selectmen. So if it were someone that they didn't know, in this case, everyone knows Bruce, and Bruce had just served for the last 2 years on the board, and he did not win re-election. So, but if it had been someone that they didn't know, then they all would have the opportunity to interview that person and to determine if they were comfortable moving that forward to a vote of the full board.
So it sounds
Okay.
like there is more of a process than I might have appreciated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds fine.
So
Is
the
it-
same thing happened 2 elections ago when Joan Walker did not win against Tom. Joan stayed on the board for about, I think, 9 months, and then she stepped down, and that's how Scott Murphy actually got onto the Board of Selectmen. So the same thing.
Gotcha.
When Joan notified the DTC that she would be resigning, the DTC went through and said to everybody registered to the Democratic Town Committee, please submit your application if you're interested in being on the Board of Selectmen. They interviewed a panel of people, and then they whittle it down and nominate one person to the full current Board of Selectmen.
Gotcha. Okay,
So
so but
let's,
is it written down somewhere, or it just happens?
If the charter is vague, it's not written down with that much detail. The charter just says that if someone resigns from a certain party, that political party has, I believe, 30 days to nominate their replacement. And the reason why it's the party that gets to nominate the replacement is to ensure that there is still that 3-2 split on the
That's
Board of
minority
Selectmen.
rule.
but, and this is part of my whole problem, frankly.
The
I mean,
unaffiliated.
so this is horrible.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It sets up a continued 2-party system in town.
Mhm.
That's it. And it's the things that we see and that we've talked about, but it's the things that we see in the surveys. I mean, let's say lightning strikes twice and we get another Gus to become a board member, and they're actually truly unaffiliated instead of unaffiliated but have to glom on to a party to get on. Then what? Then what's the process? So I run and I get on the board by some snowball's chance in hell, and then I can't do it. So now is it going to be the Democrats that pick my spot, or the Republicans that pick my spot? Who? How does that happen? How does it go?
Well, it has to be majority.
But who even nominates?
Well, maybe
nominates
that's
for
something.
me?
Maybe that's something that we add to this document about a petition of someone from the town, just from the general public. Even if they're unaffiliated, they can petition. Maybe they need 500 signatures. I'm making this up, and
Yeah.
and they can get in front of each Republican or Democratic town committee. Maybe.
But why? Why should we even have to go to a town committee? Why did they
Yeah.
run everything?
Then you'd have to go to a general election.
Who are they to tell me as an independent that I have to get their okay? That doesn't make sense. That's not an inclusive charter.
Yeah.
You know, that's a very limited charter.
So we'd have
In
to
my
go back
mind.
to we have to go back to a general election.
Yeah,
And
that should work.
and these are the
Someone steps down.
and these are the things. You know, I'm just being very difficult so that we have this kind of
No,
tough discussion. But
yeah,
but to
yeah.
me, I think that this is one of the issues. This is one of the big issues. Not do we have a town manager and an RTM, in my mind, but you know, I think the collection of these types of concerns, these types of problems, and how do you solve them? That's what we're talking about.
Mhm.
And it's that part of the charter that can be addressed. I mean, to your petition point, that's the first line, right? That's what we're talking about.
Mhm.
Include explicit political party nominations and petition provisions. I mean, we can copy and paste those right out of Fairfield's charter. That's how it works.
Mhm.
But it's something that the commission is going to have to think about. You know, but to me, I know I get also a little heated about this because I'm passionate about it. But
Mhm.
you know, I think that these are the things that when we're referring to party rule, it's outdated and it's not current with the current representation of the electors, the voters in town. We already know that, right? It's almost 33.
It's higher.
You know, just as a rule of thumb, it's higher. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Lauren, what does it cost to put on an election?
Sorry, I thought I was muted.
Oh.
It's I want to say it's about $4,000. So
To
we
To
only
run or do you mean the voting process, Peter?
the voting process, because we have to pay,
Huh.
we have to do absentee ballots. We have to allow ballots to come in. So now we have to pay for the ballots through the state. We have to pay for the postage. We have to pay for the overtime for staff. We have to pay for the rental of equipment. If we're doing a ballot that is through the machine, we have to have the machines certified. If we're doing a paper ballot, then we have to pay additional OT for the count and the recount by people for the paper ballot. So it's generally between 4,000 and 6,000. 6 is, I believe, the presidential election, but I think it's like 3,500 to 4,000 for just a general election of the town.
Huh. Hey, it's the price of
That's-
democracy.
I mean, to Leo's point, that's the only way you really solve that problem is if someone
Yeah.
steps down, you just
That's
read it
right.
up.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that's the right way to go, but I'm surprised it's as little as $4,000 too.
Yeah.
Could you
it's no
just
big
go
deal.
back
Yeah.
to the old, the results and pick the next highest winner? I mean, I'm just throwing that out there for discussion. I don't know.
All right, yeah, it's,
Because
Yeah,
then
but-
that opens it up. So to a potential independent candidate who did not get elected, but then they could get pulled up because of their vote count.
But I can't tell you the last time we had an unaffiliated run for the board. So I think,
But they're welcome to. They just need a number of signatures, correct?
yeah.
So that possibility is there. So they're not being excluded by the system. It's just it's hard to galvanize an independent is typically somebody who's not affiliated with the party, which is an election machine. But they're more than welcome to run, but they're not representative of the collective independent voters.
so if I'm a Republican and I want to run for Board of Selectmen, if I can get nominated by the nominating committee of the Republican RTC, I'm in. I don't need signatures, I'm good to go. But an unaffiliated voter needs 500?
Yeah, and honestly, I don't really think we're very good about advertising that or advertising deadlines, because I do think for the most part we communicate with the town committees. So I think that's definitely something that you guys should include in your deliverable document, that you had some significant, important conversations about engaging the unaffiliated voters of the town. And the fact that we don't really communicate out to them throughout the year of what
Yeah.
they can do to serve.
Yeah.
I mean, it's harder, obviously, to get 500 signatures, but it's not impossible. I mean, this obviously is a third of the populace out there waiting to sign your petition.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, part of me also says, and Leo, please don't be insulted, but part of me also says,
Too late.
please,
Whenever you
no,
start off with
no,
an apology, it's over. You know?
No, but some people, and to Peter's point, before I offend Leo, to Peter's point, if people don't know that you need, I bet you the average, I could ask 100 people in front of Stop and Shop tomorrow, how many signatures do you need to get on a petition for an unaffiliated voter? I wouldn't have one right answer. No one knows this stuff. So to Peter's point, it's education on one end, but to Leo's point, it's also, you've got to, if you want to do something as an unaffiliated voter, you almost have to take the initiative yourself to understand how all of the process works and then work within that process, even though it really kind of isn't spelled out that well. And so it's something that we do need to be should bring forward as a deliverable, as Lauren said.
Yeah, I mean, we could publish a lot of this information, Lauren, on the website. I mean, how to run for Board of Selectmen, how to run for Board of Finance. This is what you need to do if you're an unaffiliated, which I guess is technically a term, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not a party, but it's a term.
Right, you know? But you sign something, you check something off, I think, that says unaffiliated. You also can check it off to say you're independent, which is a whole different circumstance in this state than it is elsewhere.
Yeah.
You know, historically, though, that having more than two parties represented, you can't actually have the least popular candidate win. And that has happened many times throughout history. Even in our most recent history, when Ross Perot ran against George H.W. Bush, he drew off probably a large conservative vote, which put Bill Clinton into office. The people voted they were happy with that. He got a second term. But throughout history, when we've had multiple parties trying to represent faction groups, we've had a lot of horrible world leaders. One who ran Germany, if you recall, he only had Hitler only got elected with about maybe less than 31% of the vote. So the concept of having a fractioned party system in the interest of trying to represent all interests oftentimes can backfire on you too. So,
I agree, but we've never in our history seen this large amount of unaffiliated voters ever. I mean, it's going to be the biggest party in this country shortly.
Yeah, political scientists are going to have a field day with this because it's really the political affiliation is changing, and
dramatically.
How politics are running is changing, and the way we communicate is changing dramatically right now. Especially as I put up there in light of the COVID virus, how businesses communicate, how families communicate, how we all communicate, how politicians are going to communicate, taking a dramatic turn. I don't know how it's going to play out. I would.
I could guess if you look forward, if you look into the future with the rise of the unaffiliated voter, and if it keeps on growing, there's another political party that's going to arise out of that. Someone's going to galvanize these folks all into one.
So they're no longer affiliated.
If you want to talk about history, we used to have a Whig party, right? Doesn't exist. So you adapt or you peril.
Right.
That's how it goes.
Yeah.
You go away. So you can stick to the old and be happy when it's Democrats and Republicans, or there's a bunch of other people that would like to be accounted for too.
Sure.
And I don't want to have to glom on to Republicans or Democrats to have my point get across. I don't want to have to do that. And if that's what I have to do, then I'm never going to run for a board of anything in this town.
Well, you need 499 more signatures after your wife. That's about it.
Right, exactly. So, let's put the thumb on the scale and make it easy for the ones who are already in control, and let's be like the Whigs. We can go away.
Which
Which
just,
again, we're getting off topic here, but
by the way,
I
the
think
Whigs were
I think
replaced
that
by the
they're
Republicans.
sort of.
Sort
Yeah,
of.
they were replaced by the
Yep.
by the Republicans, but they were different, right? So,
Right.
I
Just
think
for the
that
record, Leo, I completely agree with you on the unaffiliated piece, completely.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
have an answer for that. I do wish with a third of the people in town being unaffiliated, I wish it was easier for them to be part of the process. And maybe it's not 500 signatures. Maybe it's, I don't know, pick a number. I have no
Well,
idea.
that might be by state statute, though.
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
Could
and
be.
that's the
That
other
could be.
thing, right? That
could be.
because there are requirements by state statute for, like Lauren was saying, how you got to have the 3-2 split, or I mean, there's different options that you can follow, but you do have to have certain things that comply with the Connecticut general statutes.
Mhm.
But still doesn't mean that these aren't things to think about. That's for certain.
Not to get off topic, but the RTM form of government does have a way to have an unaffiliated voter petition also to become an elector. Yeah, so I did read about that, which was really interesting. So anything else on continuity? Continuity to length of term. I didn't read that one. Extend the terms for elected positions 4 years. That was pretty popular, electing everybody to 4 years. Increase the board select persons to allow few responsibilities. Okay, that's a good idea too. I don't know, that's kind of a newer one. Increase the size of the board to give people more responsibility or fewer responsibilities for a lot more people. Town manager, town administrator. And the town administrator, as you guys know, it's already in the charter. So we got to figure out, do you keep it in the charter or do you take it out of the charter or do you clarify it or what do you do with it? Or do you just leave it there? I don't know. Just leaving it there seems kind of strange to me. And Leo was actually the first person to told me about it,
At the very least, I think it should be edited out, but again, that's for the commission, I think, to figure out. But
Right.
If you, because it just leads to ambiguity, I think, particularly when 7.3 doesn't exist, so.
Yeah. So we talked about modify the rules for the losing first select person. That's the Killingworth doctrine there. And then governmental oversight, public concern regarding the ethical decision-making and operation of town government, lack of clear reporting structures, removal of improperly performing elected officials, lower voter turnout. Yep, it doesn't give us the checks and balances. Establish a reporting structure, boards and committees. Lauren, on establishing an organizational structure for reporting for boards and commissions, does that exist now or is it just all kind of loosey-goosey? How we report, we just report to the Board of Selectmen, right? Not to the first selectman?
Yes, you are an ad hoc committee of the Board of Selectmen. So other boards and commissions are committees of the town itself. They are indebted to the taxpayers, but you guys are a temporary committee that reports directly to the Board of Selectmen. You're like an offshoot of the Board of Selectmen.
Okay. But we report to the Board of Selectmen, not to the first selectman.
Correct.
Okay. Recall
The
process.
only thing that reports directly to the first selectman is staff.
Okay. All right. And lower voter turnout. Does anybody have anything else to add here? Because we kind of got to shut this thing down and start our deliverable. Obviously, if anybody wants to add anything, we'll be more than happy to work with that. But we kind of got to, like with the questionnaire, we kind of got to set a date here to kill this. and move on. So, and Bob, I really appreciate you putting all this together. So thank you.
Yeah,
That was
maybe-
great.
Bob, maybe
Yeah.
I'll make a suggestion that we
Yeah.
get the edits done. Everybody get the edits back out to us. We look at it again and thumbs up or thumbs down or from there. Just to
Sure,
look at it one more time with
Sure.
using what we talked about tonight, just to make sure we've all thought about it.
Okay, that's fine with me. That's fine with me. And then if we go to now, Bob R, you got a whiteboard behind you. Is that
Yes.
for us or is that for work?
That's for work. That's just so
Okay.
I can think.
Just checking. I just thought you might have had a little presentation for us. That's all.
I might have used it to do some of this, but it's just if I don't have that, my brain seizes.
I'm with you. I'm
You go
with you.
catatonic.
Absolutely. You should see my living room downstairs. My wife's a first grade school teacher. I don't have a dining room or a living room. So, and this will tell you something. She got a new MacBook from school, which tells you that who knows if school's going to start on time, because they don't just give out MacBooks for the heck of it. You know? So anyway.
So one question I have is, when I collected these potential corrective actions, I just pulled them all up from that
Mhm.
the tab before.
Right.
We haven't really discussed any of them. They've all just been the ones that everyone kind of typed in as a possible. I mean, if the legislation has difficulty raising problems of concern, that's row 13. So C13, I stuck in creation of ombudsman position that represents the legislation's public's interest. No one's ever, I don't know if anyone's even read that, but it was a thought that came to me as one way to get past creating a new government, but trying to find some way of getting the voice of the residents heard easily, because everyone, first of all, everyone couldn't come to a town meeting because you can't fit them. Second, they can't come because most of them just don't have the time. So it's almost an end run into an RTM style of government, but I don't want that to be in there if I'm the only crazy person that thinks it could work. I'm not even sure it can work. I'm not sure how to make it work, but it was a thought. And I kind of thought we'd go through each of these and say, does this make any sense at all? And then have everyone else look at it and try to make it, if it has some kernel of viability as a solution, have everyone else beat it up and add to it to make it actually better.
Yeah, I would love to go through that, but I thought just because everybody has seen this thing for a few weeks now, that I guess I shouldn't assume that everybody's seen it. And if you had an issue with it, you would have spoken up, but that's okay. I mean, I'm happy to do that.
Like we have reduced the number of voters for quorum as one of the possible solutions. I don't agree. Because I think
I don't
that
either.
goes in the wrong direction, but it is a possible solution you could throw out there. I would argue it.
And
go either
I
way.
added it for exactly that. It
Yeah.
was a solution, right?
Yeah,
Because what
exactly.
we were talking about was no one shows up. Easy way to make it count.
So they
5 people.
changed,
There you go.
You know,
Done.
and the thing I get a little passionate about is the form of government we have is not working because no one shows up to do their job, which is as a citizen to come to the town meeting and vote. So it fundamentally is broken. It's working as far as running the town, but as a form of government, it doesn't work. And so maybe we can change the charter to say, fine. Because I bet if you do your Stop and Shop survey and you ask people, are you supposed to show up and vote for everything? No one will know. They won't even know what a quorum is.
No,
Because I didn't know until I joined this committee. I didn't know I was supposed to show up except for the anything to do with big dollars. But I
And you
used to
get that from the
The other
questionnaire.
question too, is
represent.
does the dollar threshold change too?
Mhm.
It's possible. I don't know what dollar
Yeah.
threshold is.
Was it $65,000 or something, or?
That's ridiculous. The $28 million budget.
Yeah, and that's my point. We should be raising the dollar limit
2% of
because
the budget.
Yeah,
Why bother?
yeah, it was really low, as I
Yeah.
recall. I don't remember exactly what it was, $50,000 or $65,000.
We can go in the direction of saying there's no quorum needed, but then make sure the charter puts in place a means of debate between the board and the first selectman or the board itself or some other committee. But there's got to be some kind of fair exchange of ideas where it's you have to have the balance of power there. I don't even know how decisions are made on the Board of Selectmen. I should probably learn that. But basics of the government is not working, so it needs to change. Doesn't need to change the government, but our understanding of how it's supposed to work probably has to change. Or electronic voting. Everyone can vote. 2-minute Zoom meeting.
You know, but keep in mind, we don't all have to agree, but because this document is for the Charter Revision Committee and they're just possible solutions.
Right. But
So
you should put down why elimination of a quorum is a good idea or it's a bad idea. It shouldn't just be an idea. Because the Charter Review Committee could have done the same thing here, and it's not helping because they can just dismiss it all.
yeah, well,
Almost a pros and
And
cons.
that's what will be in the text,
What's that?
right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what would be in the text.
Yeah, we can do it then.
yeah,
Yeah.
We start making
Yeah,
a
with-
pretty document, we keep editing.
yeah. The executive summary, yeah, there are essentially our executive summary here. But and I'm happy to debate or discuss anything from a potential corrective action. The things that I was concerned about are all in there, and the things that people brought to my attention, I think are, I think it's a really great job here. I think it's going to make whoever works on the revision, on the charter revision, I think this is a really helpful document. And they might not see this particular document per se, if we clean it up, I guess, but make it a little prettier. But so Bob R, anything else in here that, I think the ombudsman idea is a great idea. I don't know of anyone at other town that has it. We could be on the cutting edge with that, and then who establishes that ombudsman? Is it
It's
the
basically an RTM without any
electors?
power. They just represent their neighborhood.
That's interesting.
It's going to cost a lot.
Is that a paid position?
No, but you got to elect people.
Yeah.
They're going to want laptops.
Hey, you know what? Democracy isn't cheap,
That's right.
and too bad.
I think there's a lot of really good, I think we did come up with a lot of good ideas. I just feel that there's a need to polish these, and maybe, like you said, maybe we just go with this, and then as we start building that document, we polish it there, and we build the pros and cons there. But as long as we can get to that point of having that debate, because the whole discussion before in the unaffiliated voters, I would say one potential is you eliminate the reference to the political party throughout the entire charter. There's no need for it. It's not predicated on two parties. It's predicated on representation. So it's sprinkled in here, but it's not punched out.
Right.
Now, what are the 5 ways to change voter engagement? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because there's way too many things here. No one will ever be able to implement these. And depending on who the charter is, the charter committee, they could pick the easy ones, they could pick the hard ones. I don't know.
Yeah. You could not get all of this. You couldn't get an eighth of this approved.
I don't think you can get, I'm not sure you can get any of it approved, but
No.
that wasn't necessarily the mandate, was to think about approving.
Right.
It's the next step.
Exactly.
Gene already knows how that goes.
She knows how that works.
I listened to her.
Yes. She knows it going back 20 plus years. So she's done it a couple of times, and you told me that time in that meeting, we were at the bank, and you said, Bob, I'm on this charter revision committee. I said, are you insane? Why would you do that? And 20 years later, I'm thinking, wow, what an interesting way to spend an evening. and some time during the day. So anyway, all right. So I'm looking at Leo's draft. Is there a better way? I just go to Leo's email that he sent out on it and click it into Docs that way. Is there another way to get into that?
You can save a tab onto your bookmarks bar
Yeah, I save
or
it
in
as
your
a favorite.
bookmarks.
Is that how you do it? Okay, let
Yeah.
me do that right now.
Yeah.
Okay, ad hoc government committee. I'm going to put here Leo, so I know what it is. Leo in parentheses. Hang on a sec. Just so I know. Boom. Okay, good. Great. Thank you for that idea. So if you go down, and I've read this a few times now, and if you go down to the Town of Madison form of government, collection of public opinion. So we'll talk about next week the Excel spreadsheet that Lauren's going to coalesce for us. We can talk. I can start to add things about, if you want me to. I can start to take in the public forum type, the discussion that we had. Won't be very long because we didn't have a lot of discussion. But I could add text here that would information that would explain what we did in the public forum. We can't do the public questionnaire yet. Town employee survey is not going to be all that robust, only because we didn't get a heck of a lot of participation, but I can go through that from my notes and add information there. And then if you go down to B, town employees, agent interviews, I can add all of my notes on all of those meetings for your review. I'm certainly not a great writer, but I can certainly add what we talked about. And then we all have our notes from when we talked with the first select people. And we can add some notes there. I'm not sure that's appropriate. Should we do that with first selectman? I don't know. The results of that?
So again, I think as I was trying to come up with this, like these components are just the individual things, right, that we did.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily mean that every bit of this information is going to be explicit, like first selectman, this said that. This person said this. This just, it doesn't have to be that, because there is the sort of, you want to aggregate things so that, maybe people don't, feel so uncomfortable. But at least for us, just get a few sentences down in each thing. It doesn't have to be perfect text. It doesn't have to be just free form it, and then from there we can iterate on that. There's at least a concept, there's at least ideas, there's at least some facts there, and we can start to massage it and work the language, and eventually it'll become something that's more final. Mm-hmm. And the town employee survey section might disappear, or it might just be, got low turnout or low responses, but the big thing that came through in those was blank. That's at least how I envision it. So at least we'd have all of our sort of stream of consciousness thoughts, but then can work on the text over time. And then everyone will be able to see the text, kind of like, what we did for where we capturing the right concepts and right solutions, or not right, but at least amongst us, the right solutions in the Excel file. Everyone can see it, and then we can edit it. And if you have any of your notes electronically, by Bob, if you want
do.
to send them to me, I'm happy to type in stuff as well. That might start to get it out there. But I know
Sure,
like a lot
sure.
of people are very uncomfortable with text. It's like, it's not perfect, so I can't let anyone see it. I have a lot of that
Yeah.
problem myself, but I think, don't think of it that way. Just type something.
Yeah.
We're not
Yeah,
grading each other.
No, not at all. I'm just thinking that, again, I go back to, let's just assume that none of us are going to be on the Charter Review Commission.
Right.
And so the Board of Selectmen is going to hand them this couple of page document here with a lot of supporting stuff we've done. And they're going to look at it and be like, what the hell these guys do? I don't really. So what did the superintendent of schools think? And I've got some bullet points on that. What did the BOE chair say? I got some bullet points on that. And I just made notes on what people told me and what they said. I wasn't making any judgments or decisions or anything like that. So I just thought it might be helpful for the person who takes this up and says, hey, what'd you guys do for the last 4 or 5 months? Here's the document. But I got it all very, very organized. Very, very, I'm very proud of my Google skills. So
and it may not be a one size fits all. So like maybe, with the town employees, or maybe with public comment or things like that, you're more sensitive about individual names being mentioned. Whereas,
right.
Okay, if you're in politics, for Pete's sake, you shouldn't care if anyone knows what you think. You probably told everybody already, right? So
Exactly.
maybe it doesn't matter so much for those individuals. But
right. That's a good point. Even if you go down to the interviews with other municipalities, I went to every single one except for Fairfield.
Right.
Where to go? And and even just putting in, hey, what's your form of government? And what are the main key takeaways from those towns that would be helpful to the Charter Revision Committee, who look at that and say, oh, okay, town of Cheshire, it looks like they'd have a really nice, cool job with their, manager or town council form of government, and maybe then the Charter Revision Committee wants to go talk to them again based on what we put down here. So, okay. Well, why don't I send you some of the stuff I have, and if you want to glean, it's pretty well organized, I think, and my handwriting is a little clear on this. I've got this system that takes your handwriting and transposes it into actual text. It's not perfect, but it's kind of cool. But you have to write well, and I don't really write that well to start with. So once I start cranking, it gets all messy. So,
but if you send it,
yeah,
I can at least get some of it in here, and then we can edit it as needed. But send whatever you want, and I'll work on that.
Okay.
Do you want to? Should we all? I mean, again, not everybody had input, was involved in particular interviews, but we've all have input. Do you want us all to basically take that draft document and make notes where we?
I think you should. What do you think, Leo? I like that idea.
Yeah.
I found it so interesting in talking to these towns, and how they were, by all measure, I think they're pretty darn successful. Even with Clinton, recognizing that they had some significant shortcomings in their budgeting process, and then got the town manager, and everything seems like it's running really well now. From what I can hear from people who live in town, and also from the town manager himself, which not surprising, he would say it's going really well. Okay, so let's do that. Gene, great idea. Thank you for that. I'll start editing, put a couple hours aside tomorrow to do some of this stuff. And okay, good. Thank you for that. And thank you, Leo, for doing that. And I guess that's it. We might have to go a little later into August, I'm thinking, because it's now July 6th. You know, if we start doing things, I mean, I'm looking at probably, and not that we have a time limit, but we should draw a line in the sand for the maybe middle of August. Gonna kind of miss you guys on this, but we could all have a drink on Zoom, I guess. And then Gene, are you still your timeline still looking
Yeah,
like
we're leaving on the 15th.
wow. Can you still participate even though you're not an elector? Lauren, is there anything bad? Yeah, you can't do that. Lauren's saying no.
Unfortunately not.
So we'll have a party for you on the 13th at our next meeting. Okay.
I mean, we'll, you know, so I'll get as much input as I can, because technically the next meeting would be my last meeting.
Can you get on anyway and just be, if you'd like, you know, just for you want to see this through kind of thing?
Public comment? I don't know, Lauren. Could I be part of the public comment?
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Okay. So that's,
Yeah.
you know, be happy to do that.
Okay. We'll keep you on. Good. All right. Thank you for that. Lauren, does Gus have any
He
for
has
public
his hand
comment?
raised.
Okay. Gus. Good evening.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you, sir?
Okay. I have a number of things here. I'll try to get through them very quickly.
Okay.
I would just ask the 5 members who have not been involved in government before, what did you know about the town meeting form of government before you got involved in this committee?
Nothing.
You don't have to
Nothing.
answer that question. It's a rhetorical
Yeah.
question.
No, I didn't either.
You were talking about it early on, and I would say if you went to something in the range of 90 to 95% of the 13,000 members of our town meeting, that you would get an answer indicating that they don't know that much about it. And the only thing they really get involved in is the budget vote, and then that's usually less than 15% of the 13,000. So, that's where I'm coming from. You didn't know and other people didn't know. The town manager, the issue of what if you get a bad one or turns out bad after a while. Town managers have a 3-year contract, just like these superintendent of schools. They're a contract laborer, so to speak. So if you have a bad one, you get rid of them in 3 years. If you suggest having a board of selectmen with a first selectman for 4 years, town manager gives you a 1-year advantage of getting rid of them. The issue of salary for a town manager, we're paying $100,000 plus benefits for a first selectman now.
Mhm.
And when Simsbury converted over to the town manager form of government, they hired one for like about 150 plus benefits. But the thing is, their first selectman's salary, the chair of their town council, is a stipend of $10,000 a year. And that is given, then there's no benefits, just that $10,000 stipend, because that person who is the chair is also the public face of the government and attends public affairs, attends meetings, attends things in Hartford, attends things at various civic organizations, that type of thing. So they get a stipend of $10,000. It isn't stipulated in their charter. It is left up to the council to decide how much that stipend is. Term limits. We did have maybe 30, 35, 40 years ago, we had term limits in Madison for appointed offices only, because I don't believe there's an allowance for that in local level at the state statutes. I don't believe there's anything in the state statutes that allows term limits. It would be a constitutional type of thing. So you might check that issue, have Lauren maybe check it for you. But my best recollection is that we by ordinance had term limits of 12 years. And then we ran into the thing where we had a chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission that everybody loved, came up to the 12 years, and they got rid of the ordinance. the issue of unaffiliated running for office, state statute covers how and when you would appoint or have an election to cover someone who resigns from an elected office. And in the two cases that you referred to in your discussion, both of them were less than or more than 8 or 9 months from the next election. So that's why they went through the appointed process. That's by state statute. If an opening comes up close to an election, I can't remember the exact time. It might be 6 months. And I should remember it. I'll tell you that in a second. Then that person would have to go on to the ballot. And that's how I got on the Board of Finance. About 4 or 5 months before the November election, a member moved out of state. And the Board of Selectmen could not appoint because it was in the time limits of having to run for the next election. And I petitioned my way on by getting I think it was like 210 or 215 signatures on a petition. And I didn't petition as a party candidate, I just petitioned as a person. I was officially at that time a registered Republican. So I did appear on the Republican line, but I petitioned as an individual. I was not asked by the Republican Town Committee to do that. So in all the years I've been in Madison, that's the only time that I know that somebody got on the ballot without being nominated by either of the two town committees.
Wow.
And the last thing is, we have had on the ballot, didn't we last time in the municipal election, did we have a Green Party candidate, Lauren? Clinton over the years has had a Clinton taxpayer line.
Yeah, Owen Charles ran.
Running. And I think they've had a Green Party too. And I thought maybe at one time, maybe it was several years ago.
Board of Finance, it was Owen Charles.
Yeah, he ran the year I ran.
Okay. But
Wasn't
there is
working?
ways to get on the ballot as a third or fourth party, and those are all governed by state statutes, but it happens so infrequently. Again, I don't recall anybody trying to do that in Madison. But there's a lot of things that you guys have been talking about that I think are very, very interesting. And I think you've hit some key issues that should be considered. And I'm very anxious to see what the results are of your survey.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. There's some very, very good ideas, comments. I think the people, I don't know if they ran out of space, but some of them are on the freeform aspect of it. Some of them are very good. And some people are kind of maybe a little angry. I don't know, by some of the stuff I saw.
Because whatever is happening is not what they want to happen.
Right. Or it can't go fast enough to make the changes.
And I think a lot of people feel they're disenfranchised.
Right.
Even those who are with a party affiliation feel like they're not being listened to, and that's human nature.
Right.
You're not going to correct that by anything you guys are going to do.
No. Okay.
So I just want to thank you again.
Yeah. Thank you, Gus. I appreciate the extra commentary, your perspective and your legacy knowledge of all of this stuff is really helpful. And I just wish at some point we could have a cup of coffee together and I could pick your brain on some other things, but we can't really do that. Just informally.
That would be pretty slim pickings.
Yeah, that would, I don't think so. I don't think so. Great. Lauren, anybody else on the line? No? Okay. Just thought I'd ask. Anything else? So to wrap up, we're going to go into the document, into our deliverable document, add some things. I'm going to send some of my notes over to Leo. He'll add some things, and we'll put it back out for review for next week. And keep on, I know we have a date tonight of the matrix coming to an end, but if you want to add something to it, as a group, I'm never ever going to tell you no for adding something.
Well,
So
we
feel
ought
free
to
to,
pull, Bob, we ought to pull the term limit comment. Lauren, if you can research that, I'm guessing we can't put that in there, so. We
Well, if
shouldn't
it's-
suggest
if
things that
this-
we can't
if-
do, or at least.
yeah,
they
we shouldn't
can't be
suggest
considered.
things that are illegal that the town
Yeah.
won't, that the state won't allow us to do,
Right.
but term limits does kind of feel right, you know?
I mean, it could be on there, but if it's not practical because you can't get it done in the state anyway, then we shouldn't put it down.
It
I
shouldn't go on,
I
right?
did a quick search. The only thing, first thing I found is from 2001 saying that state law is silent on the subject of term limits for municipal elected officials.
Oh.
I
Okay.
don't know anything more recent that has changed, but
Well, if it's allowable and we as a group think it should be added, let's do it. You know? So,
yeah, but we probably need to do a little more deeper research on that.
yeah, well, Lauren's going to be the expert on that. So we'll see if she can throw that question out to the state. Maybe somebody in the state Secretary of State's office has an idea or something about that. So I got my request for absentee ballot today for the
For the primary.
primaries. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Well, folks, I'm sorry we went long, 7:25. Is there anything else before I ask for a motion to adjourn? No? Great. I really appreciate everybody's help. Thank you for the hard work. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second,
Excellent. Great, folks. Hey, feel free to email and call, do whatever you want, communicate during the week. Happy to chat. And I appreciate all the hard work. We'll talk to you real soon.
thank you.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you. Have a
See you
great night,
guys.
Lauren. Thanks for your help.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it.
Guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.